How to Think Like Socrates. Written and read by Donald J. Robertson. For Hector and the virtues of your ancestors. Epigraph. But men of faint heart never yet set up a trophy. Wherefore you must go forward to your discoursing manfully, and, invoking the aid of Apollo and the Muses, exhibit and celebrate the virtues of your ancient citizens. Plato. Critias. Introduction. The year is 79 BCE. 3 centuries have passed since the death of Socrates. A distinguished traveller from Rome, the statesman and philosopher Marcus Tullius Cicero, is visiting the Athenian Academy for an afternoon stroll with his friends. The school founded here by Plato, Socrates' most famous student, is the most important philosophical institute in history. Every subsequent academy bears its name. For centuries, young men had flocked here to hang on the words of great orators and philosophers as they paced up and down brightly painted marble colonnades, while athletes trained nearby, wrestling and running on the tracks. When Cicero and his companions arrive, however, they find the grounds eerily silent and completely deserted. As they walk along the vacant pathways, nevertheless, the friends feel a profound connection to the past, stronger than any text could convey. The nearby garden of Plato's house, one says, seems very vividly to bring the actual man before my eyes. Cicero feels that such places, where great philosophers once explored the nature of wisdom, actually miss the sound of their voices. He imagines the academy itself mourning the loss. The companions agree that the form of nostalgia they're experiencing can be a healthy sentiment if it encourages them to follow the example set by men like Plato and Socrates. We should feel inspired, not only to know about the great sages of history in a purely intellectual way, says Cicero, but also to emulate their way of living. Just 7 years prior, the academy area, which lay outside the city walls, had been occupied and despoiled by Roman legionaries during the dictator Sulla's brutal siege of Athens. Its sacred groves were felled to provide timber for war machines, and its shrines and libraries were looted. The academy may, therefore, have appeared semi-derelict to Cicero and his friends. Despite the damage inflicted by Sulla, philosophical studies continued at Athens for several centuries, but the city never recovered its former glory. Since the end of the classical period, the study of philosophy has shifted from being a practical way of life to being a largely bookish and theoretical pursuit. This change has been lamented by many, such as the British Philhellene Lord Byron, who mourned the decline of Athens and the fading memory of Socrates, the quintessential Athenian philosopher. As Byron reminisced about watching the Mediterranean sun disappear behind the mountains, he exclaimed, "On such an eve his palest beam he cast, when Athens, here thy wisest looked his last. How watched thy better sons his farewell ray, that closed their murdered sages' latest day." Socrates was, of course, executed, not literally murdered, by his fellow citizens. Byron's language is meant to express a sense of terrible injustice and loss. Yet despite
Sample complete. Ready to continue?